Eminent psychiatrist R.D. Laing, a writer and producer of fantastic works. He really made his mark on the human experience from a psychiatric point of view. Said that in time, in future, perhaps we will realize that people's mental health complexities is reality trying to break through. In light of this, this points to the idea that life as we understand it with a small o is constantly gracing us with opportunities to wake up out of our dreamt plans and programs where happiness may be found, even our spiritual programs where we feel happiness may be found, our tribal consciousness. Life is constantly trying to elevate us by the direct method out of our own smallness, our littleness, to wake us into life with a capital L. We are offered these opportunities and the experience of living life and being cathected, fixated to a life based on our little schemes and plans and our cultural conditioning, which is absolutely fine, of course. Why would we think there'll be anything else? And yet we still go through patterns of difficulty, which is inevitable. We allow difficulty and complex experiences to impact on our well-being, and sometimes we might all have said, or some of us have said, I feel like giving up, whatever that looks like. Maybe it's the giving up of the current program, or maybe it's the giving up on the programs of life. But in fact, really, nothing changes in the giving up. We may stop putting any effort into any area of our lives. But essentially, life is constantly offering us these opportunities. We live in a subject-object relationship. We are the subject trying to find happiness, seeking through objective relationships. We may fall foul of the material world and end out and bottoming out from that search. We encounter deeper questions that might lead us to spiritual searches, religious searches, therapeutic searches. These at the more immature levels simply enable us to reimagine a new personality, a remix of our older personality, but the personality itself stays intact. The mask is simply replaced for a new mask, but the mask still covers the happiness, the true self situ, the no self situ that the mask seeks to find by perfecting its performance to others to feel good about itself. And these opportunities come in their most visceral forms by nature of shock and grief and loss and endings, le petit mort, and being confronted with our own mortality, from small deaths to the ultimate death of the body-mind. And there are constant prompts in the everyday, the missed bus, the meeting with a friend where they didn't turn up and we're not able to get a hold of them, and that sense of disappointment that rises, that sense of defeat that rises, that sense of the perceived account of how events were supposed to go, which we're all very familiar with. We may encounter this tens or hundreds of times a day in very small and subtle ways, so subtle we don't notice them. We can become so blocked off by all of this that we just live out of a constant sense of disappointment, enabled by the sense of loss of control, the sense separation, the sense separate personality, the mask, is bound by the need to constantly reflect on its performance to know whether it's doing okay or not. So this fractious waltz of the mask of personality that we all wear, this projection of self, this self-concept that we project out into the world, we measure by the responses of others. And in so doing, the comparative study of the egoic mind in this way, we're always going to come up short. We may catch momentary glimmers of feeling like our outfit works, or we feel good about our self, our separate self in this case. Yet someone comes around the corner with a nicer outfit or a better attitude or a broader vocabulary, or someone who just seems to have their stuff more together than we do, and we immediately go one down, we go back into disappointment. And then the self-mask is recalibrated, our plans and programs for happiness are modulated, so we may just remove ourselves from a situation or do something we like. We might eat something, we might watch something, we might buy something new, we might wear something new, or we might have a wholesale yard sale of who we once were and create a new image for ourselves and a new tribe to belong to and a new group to belong to or a new minority to identify with, or merely just integrate ourselves into the majority so that we can feel self-assured that we are following life upon the lines that most people find acceptable. So we just make do. We do this in relationships. We accept less in relationships. We make do. And of course, if people are happy making do, then they really should continue to make do. Making do is fine, you know. If a person has enough, then that's enough. Often we find that when we are not enough, when we don't feel like we are enough, then any amount of objects outside of ourselves don't become enough. We can have as many lovers even as we like. We can have as many drinks as we like, as many drugs as we like. We can overeat as much as we like. We can enter into toxic relationships as much as we like. We can buy as much as we like. We can gamble as much as we like on these kind of unhealthy attachments. We can watch as many TV shows of our favourite kind as we like. But each one of them, by nature of being distinct objects that we are using to find and fix ourselves for failed programs for happiness, or simply to feel good for a few moments a day and settle, none of these will ever be enough, and we can never have enough in quantity of these things, because really we're just trying to fix an enduring problem with temporary plasters. We're using the sticking plasters of the material world. So we're being encouraged to wake up by the constant failure of these programs and plans for happiness. We're being encouraged to transcend, to be moved beyond, to be transformed by disappointment and a sense of lack that returns, and by the limits of our resources. Generally, we recalibrate when we encounter limits to our resources and imagine new resources, some of those we've alluded to here. Whether a person wakes up or when a person wakes up, and how a person wakes up and by what method the person wakes up is as wide and as varied as one could imagine. And of course, many do not ever wake up. We do just settle as a species, we accept our lot and we become uninspired by the regular parameters of living. And as we've seen, we make do. So give that some consideration and see where it leads you.